In the annals of psychology, few experiments are as well known and controversial as the Milgram experiment. Conducted in the early 1960s by Stanley Milgram at Yale University, this experiment sought to understand the limits of obedience to authority. The world had witnessed the horrors of World War II, and many questioned how ordinary people could commit such atrocities. Milgram's experiment aimed to shed light on this very question. The experiment's premise was simple: to see how far individuals would go in obeying an authority figure's instructions, even if those instructions conflicted with their moral conscience. Little did Milgram know, his findings would send shockwaves through the scientific community and beyond, revealing a disturbing truth about human nature. The Milgram experiment remains a cornerstone of social psychology, forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths about our capacity for obedience and the power of situational influences. It serves as a stark reminder that even ordinary individuals are capable of extraordinary acts of both good and evil, depending on the circumstances and the pressures they face. The Milgram experiment was ingeniously designed to disguise its true purpose. Participants were recruited through newspaper ads, believing they were taking part in a study about memory and learning. Upon arriving at Yale University, they were greeted by a stern experimenter in a lab coat and introduced to another participant, who was actually a Confederate enactor in on the experiment. The experiment involved a rigged drawing where the real participant was always assigned the role of the teacher, while the Confederate became the learner. The learner was strapped into a chair with electrodes attached to their arm, while the teacher was seated in an adjacent room in front of a shock generator. This impressive-looking machine had a row of switches labeled with increasing voltage levels, ranging from 15 to 450 volts, accompanied by labels like slight shock to danger severe shock. The teacher's task was to read out word pairs to the learner. If the learner answered incorrectly, the teacher was instructed to administer an electric shock, increasing the voltage with each wrong answer. Of course, no real shocks were delivered, but the teacher was led to believe that the learner was experiencing genuine pain and distress, with the Confederate acting out predetermined responses to the supposed shocks. As the experiment unfolded, a chilling pattern emerged. As the learner made mistakes, the teacher would hesitate, clearly uncomfortable with inflicting pain. However, the experimenter, a figure of authority, would urge them to continue with phrases like, "Please continue, the experiment requires that you continue," or "It is absolutely essential that you continue." The results were shocking. Despite their moral qualms and the learner's pleas for mercy, a staggering 65% of participants continued to administer shocks up to the highest voltage level, 450 volts, simply because the experimenter told them to. This level was marked KX and implied a potentially lethal shock. Milgram's findings sent shockwaves through the scientific community. They revealed a deeply unsettling truth: that ordinary individuals, under the influence of an authority figure, were capable of inflicting harm on an innocent person, even when it went against their own moral compass. The Milgram experiment raised a crucial question. Why did so many people obey? Several factors contributed to this high level of obedience. Firstly, the authority figure's presence and insistence created a powerful sense of obligation. The experimenter's lab coat, calm demeanor, and authoritative commands all contributed to his perceived legitimacy. Secondly, the incremental nature of the shocks played a role. By increasing the voltage gradually, the experiment exploited the foot-in-the-door technique. Participants found it harder to disobey with each small increase, making it easier to justify their actions. Thirdly, the experiment took place in a prestigious setting, Yale University, which lent an air of credibility and legitimacy to the proceedings. Participants may have felt more pressure to obey in such an environment. Moreover, the participants were not given time to reflect or question the experimenter's instructions. The fast-paced nature of the experiment, coupled with the pressure to obey, left little room for critical thinking or moral deliberation.